to May, let's see, 20th for that one. And we're going to have it at the same time and also a virtual meeting. I did reach out to both the mosque and the Greek church right in the area as well. And I was able to connect with some people there and gave them some flyers, and they agreed to be able to hand it out. So hopefully we'll get some more input. This one was a bit of short notice for some people, so we're hopeful that the one in May will capture even more of the community. Some of this is going to be a bit of a review for some of you. It's important for us to give a quick overview of the project, I think, because for some people, however, this is going to be maybe the first time they are hearing about this. We're going to create an opportunity for some comments and questions after our very brief overview of the project. And I think it's important that if there are people who are now just on this community forum for the first time, that while we're not going to shut anyone out from having questions asked or making comments, we would like to really give an opportunity for people who are hearing this for the first time to make sure that they have an opportunity to ask any questions or make comments. We do have Ryan Orr with us this evening as well from KCBA, the architects that we are working with on the project. And we appreciate his support. He's going to be helping me out with the presentation. Again, I'd like to acknowledge our superintendent, Dr. McGarry. He's here as well. Our director of secondary education, Dr. Manfrey. Our director of communications, Ms. Buford. We have our board president, Mr. Brown. Our board vice president, Ms. Curry. And board director, Don Fields. And I believe that is it. We have our CFO, Craig Rogers. It looks like he is also on the call as well. We have two principals too, Miss Meehan, the principal of Bywood, and Miss Simpson, the principal of Senco. And I recognize at least one Senco teacher in Heather Bowden. I think we just had a meeting this afternoon together talking about the pathways to proficient reading. So thank you for joining, and obviously to our community members. I'm going to share my screen at this time and just go through very quickly a presentation that some of you now, this is going to be the third time you're seeing something very similar to this. We're going to give you just a very quick overview. I'm sorry. Thank you, Dr. Manfrey. Dr. Council, your camera's not on. Usually, you're making everyone smile and engaging everyone. So I forgot about Dr. Council. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Council.
Hey, Frank, thanks so much. It's good to be here. But Rhonda, I think, blocked me from unlocking my video. I get this message that I can't start my video back up.
That
was a good move. That was a good move, Rhonda. Good job.
I don't think I have the capacity to target people. It would be one or all. I mean, all or nothing.
I think I'm blocked as well. I can't turn my camera on.
Well, let's see here.
It said the host has stopped it.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I did do that. I apologize. Sorry. There you go. You're back restored.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Rhonda, I just thought that maybe we would, if he was off camera, because otherwise we'd see a spinning chair or something.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's coming. Don't start.
Little inside joke there.
Yeah.
We have a great team. We have a lot of fun. All right. So again, just the first, I'm going to go over just a couple slides here. We know the goals. Most of you know the goals that, our primary objective is getting Senco and Kelly back into neighborhood schools as quickly as possible. That's priority 1 and 1A. And this, along with our Aronimink renovation and expansion project, will take us very, very close to that goal and help us accomplish that goal. We got some really exciting news just last night. We feel great about the support from the board and our whole team that's been working tirelessly on the Aronimink project. The bids were accepted last night. We're looking to get construction started and shovels in the ground by mid-June. So we're really excited about that project and that we're moving in a positive direction, as that is a critical piece of the puzzle here to accomplish all of these goals that you see here on the screen. Mr. Fields, I know that you did email a question to me earlier specific to the no modular classrooms, and that is a major factor, a major objective of this, and it is going to be included as a part of the Aronimink renovation expansion and the Cardington building being built. It would accomplish our goal of no longer relying on those modular classrooms, and obviously specifically out at the elementary level as it pertains to these specific projects. We're looking to stick to our class size guidelines, to the ed specs process. Right now, unfortunately, in many cases, we are not able to do that with class sizes sometimes averaging 28 or 29 students in some of our more densely populated schools. This will involve some redistricting. We're going to go over that in just a minute, but we're going to do so with the least amount of impact as possible. And it's going to have a lot of benefits, but one of the biggest benefits is going to be providing more opportunities for engagement on the part of our families, especially as our people that are here representing Senko Elementary School know, in schools like Charles Kelly and Senko, where it's really difficult for families to get all the way out to Glen Olden and to participate in events. So this will certainly be a huge win in that regard. These are some of my favorite images that I like to really lean on quite a bit. And it's not to rub anyone's nose in it. It's just the facts. And it's the facts of the matter are that we are busing kids upwards of an hour each day, about 30 minutes or so each way, to school. And we are proposing a school where they can walk to in about 3 minutes, if that. So it's important to know that, that space that we're currently using at Senko is it's a beautiful building. It's a very clean building, but it's just not adequate space. It does not provide the educational space that we need, that Principal Simpson needs, that Ms. Bowden and the rest of the teachers need there at that building to be able to meet the needs of our students and our families the way that we want to. The image on the right, as many of you know, is phys ed class happening, and right on the right-hand side of that is where the kids are eating lunch, which, as you can imagine, in the middle of the pandemic is impossible, but pre-pandemic, it was equally as challenging. Here's the catchment map that I was referring to just a minute ago. And this is a really important thing to make sure that everyone has a solid understanding of. This is a draft. I mean, this is a proposed catchment area, but we feel pretty good about this map. And I want to, someone I also neglected to mention, in addition to Dr. Council, is Tim Lambert, who is a key member of our administrative team and has helped just constantly providing assistance to us on generating these maps, helping us with our enrollment projections. He is absolutely 100% critical in this process. And he put this map together. It does a great job of illustrating where the Cardington site, where we are looking at and building this. And the white bold lines represent our current borders right now, our current catchment area for our elementary schools. So what you can see right here in this area is what is currently Senko, okay? This area here that I'm going around, hopefully you can see that. And this area over here, this little square or rectangle right here that you can see, these two areas represent the current catchment area for Senko. And you can see that the majority of these students here are going to be Senko kids. This school is going to be located right there in the middle of that community. You can also see on the map here that this is the current catchment area for Bywood Elementary School. So we are dipping into the Bywood Elementary School catchment right here and capturing these students and families that are going to go to this new school to alleviate some of the issues that we have at Bywood in terms of enrollment and capacity. In addition to that, you can see that this pinkish area up here, we'll call it Salmon, maybe. Is that fair? Salmon. Well, this area here is currently a part of what is now the Charles Kelly catchment area. And we can see that we're dividing that. We have this area here is going to be closest to the Cardington site. They'll be attending Cardington, and these students here will be attending Highland Park. And then the other options here, the other consideration is that this area right here, this boomerang looking thing, is also Charles Kelly. They're going to be going back to their neighborhood school at Stonehurst Hills right here, okay? This area again of Senko is going to be attending Garrettford. And then as we complete the Aronimink renovation and expansion in connection to the Cardington Elementary School site happening, we're going to shift boundaries from Highland Park here, these students that would otherwise be attending Highland Park, attending Hillcrest. And then these two students here, this group of students here, who would otherwise be attending Hillcrest are going to be going to Aronimink, in addition to some of these Garrettford students. Primus and Westbrook are, remaining unchanged in terms of their catchment areas. And obviously Kelly over here and Senko, which isn't even on the map because it's not even in the district, they will no longer exist once these two projects are complete. So I'm going to pause there, see if anyone has any questions specific to the map that I have up here and all of that information that I just dumped on you about the proposed changes. Anyone have any questions about that part or comments? Aranda, Dan, Tim, anything I stated incorrectly or anything else that anyone wants to add?
No,
Frank.
feel free to unmute yourselves. Sorry, Dan.
No, it's okay, Ron. Frank, I think you're right on. I think just one of the key points that you eloquently bring up too, we have to do these things, make these moves and put an elementary school, as you talked about, in the Cardington area and expand the Aronimink Elementary School. And I know you'll get to it. We still can't necessarily get all K-5 schools. And this really is the least amount of additions onto schools to solve these problems right now. It's one of the least expensive process and procedures we can put into place to ease the overcrowding. So I think you've done a great job. Great job.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's worth repeating, Dan, that it's so just to Dan's point, we are looking to have one of the objectives we had is to make sure that we are doing our best to get K-5 programming in all of our schools without having to rely on a kindergarten center necessarily. And with the work that Tim Lambert has been doing with enrollment projections, it's going to be pretty darn close. But at this point in time, we're not 100% certain, although we're still not giving up on it, that given this catchment draft map situation and the addition and expansion of Aronimink and the construction of Cardington Elementary School, unfortunately, Highland Park, Bywood, and even the new site here at Cardington, we're not 100% confident that we're going to be able to get our kindergarten students at each of those schools. We simply, the site has limitations in terms of its size. We want to make sure that we are saving as much green space as possible. We want the building to be appropriately sized. So, it's right now, one of the things that we're up against is trying to make sure that we create a K-5 situation at Highland Park, at Bywood, and at Cardington. But right now, it's looking pretty close. We don't know that we're going to have the space, even with these moves. That would bring the K Center back in play, at least in part, for those three areas. But we're going to look to continue to work on that. We're going to see how things continue to play out with enrollment projections the next couple of years. These shifts, including the Aronimink shift, it's important to note, they're not happening until both of these projects are done. So we're not making these boundary changes once Aronimink is complete. These can only happen once Cardington and Aronimink are complete. The other thing that really is tied very closely to this is, our middle school project at Clifton Field. Because if we start changing elementary school catchments and we only have Drexel Hill and Beverly Hills still in play, that might create a split feeder pattern, which we're trying to avoid at all costs as well. At this point, I'm gonna hand the presentation over to Ryan just for a couple slides here, and then I'm gonna take back over in a second. I'm sorry for the text message pings, but I'm getting updates from my son's baseball game. Ryan?
Sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm Ryan Orr from KCBA Architects. So here we see the aerial image of Cardington Field, and then yeah, Frank, if you just click through the next couple, right there in the center of your screen, across the way, we have the cemetery. And then off to the west, we have the business area with the link to 69th Street there. And then finally, we have the surrounding neighborhood. All the students that would be attending this new Cardington Elementary School are coming immediately from your adjacent neighborhood community. So go ahead to the next slide. So here we have Walnut Street to the south, Sampson Street to the north, and then both of those link to that 69th Street link to the west. So we're looking at these two streets as the major arteries to this site. Once again, Cardington Field, 3.8 acres. Right now, there's multi-purpose field, baseball field, small playground, but this is also adequate to hold a school building, as well as necessary parking and still provide open space on this site. So yep, go ahead to the next slide. So looking at those three components, school building, parking, open space, we looked at a few different options so far. First one, putting the school building along Sampson Street, keeping the open space towards the cemetery. But what does that do? That puts parking in the middle of the site. So that drives traffic down either Heather or Chatham. Go ahead, click to the next slide there. You'll see the yellow arrows. We're going to drive, that would drive parking and traffic onto those side streets. So this option might not be as desirable. Similarly, if we put the school building towards Walnut, open space towards Sampson, the same issue occurs. We're loading those side streets with additional traffic. So if we reverse that, put the school building in the middle, then we have a choice of parking off of Sampson, where the traffic comes off of there, or parking off of Walnut to the south, which there's actually a signalized intersection there already. So that may be desirable. And then that open space is closer towards more of the residences to the north, where a majority of the neighborhood is, and then parking towards the cemetery existing open space. So just once again, a few of those options: school building will go along Sampson or Walnut, but again, that puts parking in the middle of the site, which would drive traffic on those side streets, or parking towards Sampson or Walnut, keeping traffic on one of those more major arteries, and also allowing the open space to be towards the neighborhood. So for that large open space, it's a school. We know we need playground. So one option is maybe this entire open space is one large community playground. Pieces of this could be harder skate materials, not like playground mulch, things like that. So when it rains, it dries out quicker, can be used more efficiently and quicker after, say, a rainstorm. Or there might be an option where part of the open space is a large community playground, and the other half is a reading grove for the community, or part of a community garden that is part of the curriculum for the school. So lots of options here to maintain a large portion of the site for open space, which serves the school as well as the community. And Frank, if you wanted to chime in here.
Yeah, I think that this is an important point. We added this slide after our first community forum because there were some concerns expressed about just it being a safe site for a school, and whether or not, you know, this would be wise to build an elementary school on this site because of some safety concerns. We have a very good relationship with the Upper Darby Police Department and the township in general. We have definitely reviewed these plans with the police department and Superintendent Bernhardt and the mayor's office and the township. And, you know, they have expressed to us that, you know, if a school is there, obviously they feel like it will passively increase visual surveillance as for one. It will also create, as we have here, a more visually open recreation area. And, you know, and with a school there, certainly we're going to have, in addition to school security, there's going to be, you know, more adults around, more people present day to day throughout the day. And the police, knowing there's a school there, as they do for all of our schools, are going to support us however we need them to make sure that we're ensuring the safety of our students and our staff. So in addition to that, you know, Lou Gentile and our security team has done an outstanding job of, and our board has been amazing with this, and Dr. McGarry with updating all of our security cameras inside the building and also externally. Our buildings are equipped with state-of-the-art cameras, which capture our property, but, you know, any sort of activity that we work closely with the police outside of the normal school day, weekends, oftentimes we're sharing those surveillance camera videos as necessary to be able to help law enforcement with any sort of activity that happens on or adjacent to our property. Traffic also came up as a concern, obviously, and I'm trying to follow the chat. I appreciate Dr. McGarry and others jumping in there as I'm trying to click through the slides and do the presentation. Just know that we're also going to have an opportunity for more of a Q&A and for you to unmute and speak about your concerns or comments or questions as well. So know that there will be time built in to this this conversation here. But traffic is a big one. We're going to do a thorough traffic study along with the design of the project. It's important to note, you know, as I was out in the community just the other day interacting with some community members by the Cardington Field area, there were buses. There were quite a few district buses driving up and down the streets. And, you know, the one thing is that we're not going to have buses coming to and from that area anywhere near as much because it's going to be primarily a walking school. The only exception to that would potentially be some hazardous routes. But you know, the buses are not going to be up and down those side streets anywhere near as much as they currently are to transport the Senco students. Another important point is that we're going to have ample on-site parking. So it's not like we're going to have our staff, our visitors, our family members, or anyone else coming onto campus needing to park on the street. So our intention is to make sure that there's adequate parking. So we are not going to increase the street parking, you know, at all, any more than there is already in this area. Ryan, do you have anything to add to this point?
No, I think that covers it. Just the only other point is, yeah, a traffic study will be conducted as part of the planning for this project. So you'll be able to see the numbers and how the future design comes about based on that study.
One other thing I want to say about safety, because I'm looking at the chat now for the first time in a minute here. You know, and we've touched on this point before, but it's a really important point, and specifically to Ms. Laub's comment about not wanting to send their child in the school in the neighborhood where guns are fired in the local cemetery. The children live in the neighborhood, so they're already, you know, eating dinner, they are playing in the park, they are getting off the bus, they are there on the weekends. So it's not like we're busing students from outside of the neighborhood into the neighborhood. This is an area that it's their community, and that's where we're building the school. And I agree wholeheartedly with Dr. McGarry that this is going to increase the safety of the area. It's not going to take away from it. There's going to be more of a presence. Any sort of criminal activity on or around schools, and in particular elementary schools, you know, only make it a more serious offense. So we are hopeful that with the continued partnership with the township and the police department, and the cooperation that the police department is now getting from the cemetery, and you know, and making sure that they are there and have a presence for services that they feel they need to be. We're confident that this is going to be a better situation than it is currently. But I'm gonna pause on that and see if anyone, you know, wants to. And again, I want to make sure for those of you that may have joined late, you know, if you're here for the first time, I would like to give an opportunity for those who have not commented on any of our prior sessions to maybe have a chance to speak up first, as opposed to, you know, so if there's anyone who is here for the first time that has questions, comments, or concerns, and you would like to unmute, please feel free at this time if you want to have a conversation about this part of the presentation. Okay. We're going to move on, and then we're going to open up to general questions in just a minute here. As we stated before, the neighborhood is going to be a predominantly walking school. The school is going to be a predominantly walking school. Everything's going to be in walking distance. So you can see in the pink outline here is it just represents anyone outside of that area would qualify for a bus. And in the shaded area here is the proposed catchment area. So you can see that everyone is within that boundary. The only exception, as we've talked about before, is potentially looking at, you know, Route 3 here. And if that is in fact a hazardous route and would not be adequately, you know, we would have crossing guards there. But if it is not a route that PennDOT says we should have even crossing guards at, crossing kids safely, that we might have to bus students from this area. That would be the only one exception, I believe, potentially maybe 69th Street. But we're going to take a close look at that. The traffic study would reveal these things for us, but it's going to be predominantly a walking school. This is now our third session. We've had a number of community listening sessions. We've also had a public facilities plan overview meeting where we've highlighted the Cardington plan at our board committee meeting on February the 23rd. And we're going to have another one in May, like I said. So that's going to be 5 opportunities in just the last few months to engage the community and have these conversations. And we're looking to do so hopefully as CDC guidelines get relaxed in more of an in-person format moving forward as well. So this is the point where I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see everyone. And I'm going to just allow everyone to feel free to either raise a hand if you'd like, or come off of mute and ask any questions and make any comments at this point. Thank you for allowing us to give that brief overview.
The neighbors in the Cardington area do not want this school built.
Ms. Laub, I appreciate you coming off of mute and saying that. Clearly, you're not in favor of it. And I believe that, there are probably some neighbors in the community that don't. I want to tell you that I've personally spoken to quite a few as I've been going door to door and engaging the community that are very excited about the project. So I don't know that a generalization that the neighbors in general don't want it, because I've talked to many people who are very much in favor and excited about the idea. You're on mute, Ms. Laub, but I don't want to minimize your concerns. Specifically, is there anything else besides safety in the cemetery that you have concerns about? You were trying to talk and you were just muted. You're still muted, Ms. Laub.
Ms. Laub, press.
Yes, I have concerns about asbestos remediation. I have concerns about construction disturbing my neighborhood. I have concerns about increased traffic in my neighborhood. And I have concerns about the lack of open space for recreation in my neighborhood.
Mr. Orr, would you like to comment on any sort of asbestos remediation and how we have already had to contend with that in other projects, and what our plan is for any sort of project that would involve any sort of asbestos remediation, and how we would do so, obviously, very safely?
Yes, sure. And to start off, there's not an existing building or an existing structure on this site that would contain asbestos that would need to be remediated. But if there were any hazardous items found, obviously they would be taken care of as in any construction project per all state and federal guidelines, safely removed from the site, and they would not be an issue during construction. And also construction planning is part of this entire process. So as we would plan for a new building, contractors would be required to park on site. All the construction laydown areas would be required to be on site. There would be a construction fence around the entire site, making for a safe construction process. I can't say that there won't be, there will be no disturbances. There certainly will be noise, but all these things, noise, dust, will be minimized throughout the process, and we'll follow the township guidelines for working hours, and once again follow strict phasing plans to make sure that we're causing the least amount of disturbance as possible during construction.
Thank you, Ryan. Mr. Sadiq had his hand up, and I believe maybe Mr. Gillespie wanted to make a comment. If not, that's fine, Mr. Gillespie. Mr. Sadiq, would you like to, you had your hand up, sir.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Many of you know me, or whoever don't know me, I'm Sheikh Sadiq. I represent this district, District 6, which is happening in my district and also my doorstep. This is the school we will support 100%, and many question in neighborhood that the rumors saying that the whole field will taken away by school building. So there will be no recreation place. So I would like to make it clear from the administration that the school, to build the school over here, they will not take the whole field.
Oh, you don't
People
have a.
will still have the for recreation.
This is
People have
ridiculous.
Ms. Taylor, I just muted you because I would like to give everyone an opportunity to speak. So you're still talking, but I muted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr.
And, yes, and this is the demand for our immigrant community, because 80% in my district, 80% community members, immigrant community, their children going far from here, hour and hour driving, and especially winter time. So it is a good opportunity. It's for our community in around Cardington field, then is school going to happen here, and their dream of the immigrant community will be fulfilled to build this school. And once again, I'm telling that the school district will not take the whole field. It will be part of the field to build the school. For the recreation, for the soccer, and for socializing, still half of the, I believe they will say clearly, I believe the half of the field still will be for recreation. So I am supporting this school project, and the community, and 80% of the community supported. If I can bring the petition to the school district, so there should not be any opposition, and that is my position for the school. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Siddiq. And just to everyone that is participating, we want to hear from everyone. We've already heard from a few people, obviously, that have concerns about the project. We have some people on the call who are in favor of the project, but we have to be respectful of everyone on the call to make sure that we're not talking over anybody. We're not screaming and shouting at anyone. We have to have a conversation about this, because there is no right or wrong in this. I mean, everyone has an opinion one way or the other. I see Mr. Gillespie is making comments, and that's fine, that you don't feel like you have a say. This is an opportunity. This is a forum to voice concerns and for us to hear them and to process them. Dr. McGarry?
Yeah, I have a tremendous amount of respect for all the community members that are on this call. And Ms. Taylor, I know we've had a lot of conversations. I appreciate your passion for your community. Mrs. Lobb, this is the first time, I've heard from you. I guess, I would like to just ask a question of the community. As educators in this community and the wonderful board of school directors that we have, our number one priority are the kids in this community that we serve. And I'd like to try to come to a common understanding, right? Don't we want the best for the kids in the Upper Darby community? I would hope the answer to that is, I hope you're shaking your head no, but I hope the answer to that is that we do, that we want the best for the students in the Upper Darby School District, right? So that's the number one priority. And investing in the kids means we're investing in the community. And so some of the concerns related to traffic, some of the concerns that are real concerns no matter what in this school district, should far be a give back to kids being on a bus for over an hour whose parents are non-English speakers who don't have an opportunity to access the school like other kids in other communities do. And so we're going to strengthen a community. And by putting a school in that community, if we can, if we're supported to do so. So to Mr. Gillespie's point, no, we don't know if we're going to be able to pull that off yet. We're trying to reach out to you to try to get your support. It's going to make that community better. It's going to increase home values. It's going to make it safer. Violent crimes or crimes around schools are more harshly punished because there are certain laws around schools that have to be followed. So we think that improving that property right there, putting a school there, making it a walking school, makes it a win-win for everybody. Will there be some short-term headaches? Absolutely. There absolutely will be. But at the end of the day, Upper Darby community has to stop fighting improving schools for children. No other community, if you go right up the street in Havertown, they're putting a new school on the same property on a very busy road, no problem. Westchester, brand new elementary school, no problem. Springfield put a new $150 million school on the same property next to another school. Traffic issues, they're doing it. The home values are going up, they're selling. There's improvements to a community. We've got to come together and work together. You're right to have some concerns, but let's come together and solve the problems instead of it being a no for the sake of a no. Asbestos shouldn't be the reason that it's a no. We should want to make it cleaner and better if that's even the case in that property. We've got to rule out each one of these steps. Don't we think a school, a new and beautiful school in a community promotes a better attitude? It's got to be, we've got to see the positives in this.
Ms. Taylor, if you'd like to come off mute, I'm sorry that I muted you earlier. I just want to get it. Everyone has an opportunity to have a voice here. So please go ahead.
My apologies, first and foremost. I'm just adamant, and just to reiterate what I said the last time, how many more red flags you all need to see that this is a bad idea. This is a bad location. We live in a multicultural community, okay? And it is not 80% of the residents are on board with this. We have 46 houses on this street. 50 of them are against this, okay? Let me back up. I don't understand why do we keep having these Zoom meetings? We can meet in the park and stand 6 feet apart. You understand? We can do that so you can get involved with all the community. You understand what I'm saying? I'm thinking you guys don't want to do that because you know the outcome. You may have had a few residents that are on board with this, but the majority of them are not. Not to mention, this is going to be a nightmare. You guys can try to minimize the construction phase of this all you want. They are going to build a community center on Walnut Street, okay? It is going to be a nightmare. Compound that with the mosque with 3,000 members. And just because it's COVID right now, we are going to go back to normal, okay? Compound that with the construction of a community center and digging up this park, okay? Chatham, Sampson, they all going to come here on Kent Road. Where are the people that's going to come Fridays to pray? Where are they going to go once that construction phase starts on Walnut Street? It is going to be a nightmare. Do you not understand that? Do the kids need a school? Yes. We are going to be on top of each other. If you take this field away from these kids, they don't have any outlet. This is going to be more, they're going to wreak more trouble on Upper Darby. Okay, you have other options. 69th Street Field is not a flood zone. I was here in 93 when it flooded, and I was here last year in 2018. In fact, I lost my car in that one. The longest the water went to was Fresh Roaster parking lot. It did not hit 69th Street Field. And if I'm not mistaken, the previous administration offered the school board those two locations. In fact, it was 69th Street Field and Marshall Road Field. It wasn't a flood zone then, and you had the option of leaving Cardington open. Because the last administration, am I correct, gave y'all that option, either site.
Mrs. Taylor, this is Dr. Manfrey.
I'll answer that.
Okay, one at a time. Somebody answer me. Correct.
Yeah, I know, Dr.
I'll answer that, Greg, and you can
Dr.
jump in.
McGarry will answer you. I just want to say that we were in the neighborhood, Mr. Salerno and I, just the other day, and we pulled our cars over, spoke to you about this project, frankly.
Yes, I did.
Ms. Taylor, and at that time, you had told Mr. Salerno and I that you were right down the middle as far as this project was concerned. Yes. And that as far as you were concerned, 50% of the neighborhood was for the project and 50% of the neighborhood had misgivings.
I did not say that. I said I'm in the middle with this, and I'm not going to go against my friends and neighbors. We are against this. Do you understand that? Especially when you have Marshall Road Field sitting back there wide open, which is directly behind Beverly Hills Middle School, down the street from Upper Darby High. The township owns that. If the township is on board, they know the situation here. That field was offered to you then. Why is it not offered to you now?
So I'll answer all the questions. We don't own Marshall Road Field, and it does not work as far as boundaries and convenience to families. It would increase transportation costs, increase busing. We want, by the way, as the county does, it's the right thing to do. We want to reduce busing in the school community, make access to kids to have neighborhood schools more appropriate so families can engage in their schools, because parents engaging in schools means better student achievement, more access, more opportunities, and their points of pride. Number two, you asked a question about 69th Street. Yes, we were misled. Correct. We were led to believe that you could build a school on 69th Street. until we receive the FEMA reports that are made public on our district website, as Ms. Buford put in there, that clearly say you are not able to build a school on 69th Street because it floods. FEMA
You
has
got
the
this
report.
directly, I'm sorry, you got this directly from FEMA?
Yes, it's on our
Or
website. We
did
have
you
the
get this
reports.
off the general maps?
That's all right. I'll put it in the chat for you to review the FEMA documents that the township had and they did not give us at that time.
Well, there's always room for a second opinion. I'm sorry. I
Okay.
just don't agree with that because it wasn't a flood zone back then when it was offered to you. Mysteriously, it's a flood zone now. And I can assure you,
The entire
you know,
time.
I can assure you, you're gonna meet a whole lot of resistance here. Okay, because this is a disaster waiting to happen. Do the kids need a school? Yes. This is not a location for the school. If you take this park away from our community, this is the heart of our community. Okay, irregardless what the 6th District Council says, you know, he may speak for his people, but we have a whole multicultural people who are against this.
Ms. Taylor, I believe that Ms. Bowden had her hand up, so I'm going to go over to her now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salerno. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to speak from the point of view of a teacher. No, I do not live in your neighborhood. I also do not have children that live in that neighborhood or who would attend that school, but I do teach those children every day. And I've been a teacher at Senco since the school building opened. And so I've had the opportunity to see what these students go through every day, getting on the bus and coming to school for 20 to 30, sometimes 40 minutes. Getting sick at school and not being able to have somebody come pick them up because their parents don't have a car. Parents that don't even know where our school is located, not being able to meet some of my students' parents because they don't know where we are and they don't have transportation to get to the school. I mean, there's just so many issues that arise from us not being in the community. And I just think that this would be an amazing opportunity for the community. And this could become the new heart of the community. I know you're worried about you losing that space, but this would create a much nicer space and it could become the new heart of the community.
Ms. Bowden, thank you again for being here and thanks for commenting. Ms. Love, you said that things have changed since there was a school there. I'm just, would you mind, not that you need to, but would you mind elaborating on that?
I will let you know in a few minutes.
Okay.
The previous building is still underground. Is that what you were talking about, Amy?
Yes.
It's still there. And
I know.
I don't know if you've tested the soil. I mean, it's about 25, 30 feet down. So we don't know if it's asbestos. Once you start digging and those air pockets are in the air, now we have to wait. Now we have to watch out for our health. I mean, how many more red flags do you guys need to see that this is a bad idea? The reason why, listen, let me finish my comment. The reason why it was exploded before, because the building had issues. Okay, so now knowing that the building is still there. Okay.
That's not the case.
What do you mean it's not the case? Knowing that that old building is still underground. So what are you going to do? Build on top of it?
Olivia,
is that what you're saying?
How do you know these things? Are you in construction? I hear you.
I'm involved in my community. That's how I know these things.
Listen,
okay, I've done my research.
This is why we have experts who actually do building and construction on the phone right now.
So are you telling me that the building is not there? Are you telling me that? Is
I'm
that
not
what you're
going to
saying?
say anything to you if you're not going to listen. So
I'm
let the experts talk, Olivia.
I am. We can get our own experts to come out here and test this ground, just like we can get our own experts to test 69.
We're trying to work with you. Nobody's fighting.
I agree with Ms. Buford. Ms. Taylor, look, at the end of the day, I'll simply say this professionally, and then you know, Frank, you know, at some point, I think, you know, the presentation, the conversations, they are what they are, and we're going to continue the community input. We are going to do every necessary required environmental test that protects the community, keeps it safe, There are steps and procedures that'll be in place that we have to do, core sampling that will not get everything out in the air and hurt anybody. If there's an underground foundation that still exists, it will be renovated and taken care of, and actually the area would be improved. Even some stormwater management in that area would be improved by putting a school there. But we're getting out ahead of ourselves, I think, a little bit. You know, we have miles to go before we implement, you know, this process. We're simply coming out to you to be productive and positive. You know, the reason why that school closed in 1983, around that period of time, is because there was a decline in enrollment in the community. And so
building products.
So I think at the end of the day, we have a much more positive outlook. We respect some of your concerns. If we can create a list productively, I mean, I'd like to try to end this call with some next steps that we can work together. Mrs. Taylor, I'd love to meet you with Mr. Salerno on that field. No problem. Have a conversation with you.
As a whole. I
That's
want
fine.
to get all
That's
the
fine.
community.
I know.
I'm going to knock on every door, Barrington, Heather, Powell Lane, Chatham. I'm going to get the whole community in that field, and they are going to start asking you questions, not just me, because
That's
this
great.
this
So can I-
affects everyone. This
Ms.
is
Taylor,
not about me.
respectfully, Can I finish real
Thank
quick?
you.
Can I
Sure.
finish? Okay, thank you. I'd like to try to create some actionable next steps, because, you know, everybody, we are passionate, intense that we want to solve problems for kids. You want to protect what you think is your right to protect your safety. That's fair. But I would like to at least create realistic, actionable next steps that we can operate from to check off boxes instead of, you know, look, I'm not a construction expert. Maybe you are, but how about we start to do this? Let's start to create an action set of checklist of things. You've got some concerns about environmental concerns in that area, correct? Right? Okay. So on our agenda for our next topics that we can talk about, how we would address environmental concerns. How can traffic concerns be addressed? What can safety and security concerns can be addressed? There's 3 or 4 items we can talk about. We'll bring some experts to the table to talk about those things. We'll talk about some traffic. My goal with all of you is let's try to move forward in a positive direction. And by the way, to be clear, if it is unsafe environmentally in that area, it's got to be fixed anyway, regardless of a school getting fixed there. So you're bringing some things to the surface that we want to know, regardless of building a new school. So we don't want kids playing on a field that is not safe. So at the end of the day, let's create some real actionable steps, as Ms. Buford put in the chat too, that we'll share out. There's no hidden agenda. And let's at least try to operate from a perspective of, these are your concerns. We've heard some of them tonight. And let's then create a next meeting where we can check off a list of show how we can approach those things respectfully. Does that sound fair?
It's fair. If by Friday, can you come to Kent Road and meet me here Friday with the rest of my neighbors?
With all due respect, I have 3 little boys and we have kids that I have to coach. I've got to get to games as we speak, as so does Frank. But I promise you that we will. We'll set up a meeting by the end of this week. We will set up a meeting with you and coordinate a meeting over there.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Have
a good night.
Olivia.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Amy. Go ahead.
It's Aranda. Before you go, can I call you with Dr. McGarry and we get that list from you? Because we've talked a couple of times. Yeah, and we'll take.
Listen, let me apologize. I didn't mean to snap on you. You know, you my friend, and you know, it's just.
I love you. I know you. I know how passionate you are. We're good.
It's about my neighbors, about the kids that need this space. And I'm afraid if y'all take it away from them, these kids are going to start acting out because they're not going to have an outlet. You understand? Do we need a school?
Valid concerns. You're right. Those are valid concerns. Dr. McGarry wants to work with you to address them. There's some fallacies out there, like some people saying that the whole playground will be taken away. That is not true. I don't understand why someone would say something like that if it's not true. If we're really concerned about that, and someone gives you a factual answer and shows you the construction project and, you know, some rendition of it, then why would you continue to perpetuate something that you know is not true? That's what's concerning to me. So let's sit down, work together, create a frequently asked questions list so we can get the truth out there. Then
Exactly.
people can make a real decision as opposed to being impassioned about something that they probably don't have information about.
Ms. Buford,
This
thank you
is
very
why
much.
we all need to meet and let the residents voice their concerns.
All right,
know,
thank you, Taylor. I
That's how I
appreciate it.
feel.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. I appreciate everyone's attendance this evening. I think that, again, we have a plan moving forward. I think maybe during that May meeting, we can actually have specific concerns that were brought up, the first 3 sessions addressed with some experts to be able to speak on them. If that soil is contaminated, you know, and it's being used as often as everyone says it is, and I've seen that it is, that's something that needs to be addressed regardless, whether we're building a school there or not, right? So I think that Mr. Orr brought up a good point with that. So thank you very much for everyone's participation. We are going to reconvene, and we appreciate everyone joining us and sharing your input as we continue down this road. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.